Reality is like a film set. There are directors,
Action!
producers,
Are we on schedule?
and even actors.
Can somebody get me a coffee?
The trick is realizing that you are playing all of these roles. You are the executive producer of your reality. My name is Daniel,
My name is Lauren.
and we're here to break the fourth wall to discover what's behind the scenes. And what you hear just might have you saying, "That's so meta." Welcome to That's So Meta, where we discuss the mystical, magical, and the metaphysical. Today is a special episode because we have a special guest. And our special guest today is my friend, Norman Love. Hey, Norman?
Hey, Daniel. Hey, Laura. How's it going?
Awesome. Yeah. We're so excited to be doing this with you today. And what we did was we wanted to bring Norman in on a special episode to give a teaching on the concept of grounding. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to teach you guys what grounding is, how it works, and what ways that it definitely will benefit you when you start using it as a tool. So before we go ahead and dive in on that, let's talk a little bit about how we met Norman. Well, I think that we connected on the internet through the channeling community. As many of you may or may not know, I'm a channeler, and we connected through Brad Johnson is how I think you and I met online. And Norman had just sent me like cold messages, just very complimentary, very kind, very sweet. I think he saw some of my videos or something and resonated with our material. And he just had nothing but nice things to say about Lauren and I and the work that we're doing. And from there, we got to talking and getting to know each other. And like I said, Norman had seen a lot of our videos. And we were working on a TV show for Awoken TV, which was a channeling show. And Norman had mentioned through when we were talking that you resonated with the Za of Orion, which were the beings that I was channeling for the network series. And so I remember that Norman was always a longtime supporter of, the moment imaging and everything Lauren and I were doing together. So we thought it would be fun to start bringing in special guests on that show. And so Norman, we brought you in to interview Hermes from the Za of Orion. And when we brought you in for that channeling session, what we found out was not only is it easy to connect with like-minded people on the internet, whether you want to call them star seeds or, anything like that, we actually found out through these sessions that we're all part of like a soul family, you and I. And my counterpart being Hermes on the Za of Orion, we found out that you also have an incarnation on the Za of Orion as well. Okay. And so what we're putting together here is the synchronicities that may bring us together on the internet, whether we're, we only know each other online, there's still a soul connection. There's still a level of that sort of familiarity that we have when we met you and started bringing you in on these projects. And so, I'm very excited to have you here on the podcast, That's So Meta, because I think that the episode for Stories from Orion went well, and I love the connection that we learned about each other. So I personally do feel a soul connection to you, and I think that's why we resonate so much with each other's energy and material and things that we have to offer. And so that's my understanding of how we got Norman on today's show. I don't know if you want to sort of jump in on that and add your perspective as well.
Yeah, you were right on point when you said about the soul family stuff. I'm noticing now that all people from my oversoul are slowly starting to come to the forefront, and I'm working with them more and more. People like you, Brad Johnson. I have a strong connection with Brad Johnson that he might not know about, but Jonas told me about. And so then I noticed you, being one of his friends, Daniel James. And I was like, so I started to notice, what you were doing, and I followed you as a friend. And then I noticed the Hermes thing, and I was like, whoa, I was really into that. I followed my excitement. My excitement was like, Hermes, check him out. And that led me to be revealed that I have a counterpart there also. So we're all finding out that we're all us that are here like in the forefront. People like you, Brad Johnson, and slowly like me now are discovering that we had a purpose to like be more out in the front and to like teach and show, which is why, you're like there's not a lot of people out there saying, hey, I'm going to start a metaphysical talk
Yeah.
show. Although many have thought about it, I've thought about it, but you are the one that's got the tools. You've got the technical aspect. You've got Lauren. I don't have Lauren looking around. I got no technical person. So the universe says, all right, Daniel will be the one to do the talk show. And we'll have Norman go on and he'll talk about his stuff. Because, when you first came out with the metaphysical show, I loved it. I was like, man, that's good. Because my topic is, metaphysics, the nature of reality. Matter of fact, that's where the synchronicity is in my name, Norman, N-O-R, man, nature of reality, man. And my most exciting thing is just learning about and talking about the nature of reality. So when your show came up, That's So Meta, I was like subscribing and I was checking out every episode. It's down my line. So it's not surprising that I'm on here talking about now something and given our soul connection and all that stuff, oversoul connection, that I'm here talking about one of the subjects.
Awesome. Well, we are grateful to have you. Norman and I have talked about the concept of grounding. And what I'll tell you guys before we get started is that I was very impressed with how much you know and understand on a technical perspective of the concept of grounding. And Norman actually offered the concept for us to just use as a topic. But then I was like, no, we got to get him on the show and have him, give it to us the way that, I learned it from you. And I've had my personal experiences with grounding. I know that Lauren actually synchronistically, thanks to Norman, has a pretty powerful experience with grounding. So let's dive right in. And Norman, what I want to say to you is teach us about what grounding is, and from a technical and a metaphysical perspective, and let's learn together.
Sure, my pleasure. First, let's start about my excitement with grounding. I think I was predetermined to be someone who was going to be talking about grounding. So the universe wanted me to first learn it from the ground up. No pun intended. That was off the top of my head. But anyway, so it started out that I found myself in a situation where I needed to be grounded. I couldn't sleep at night. I would get up at like every hour on the hour to have to go, pee to the bathroom. And I was having all kinds of weird dreams and attachments and stuff, because I have a very big aura and stuff like that. So I would go and talk to people that did sessions through channel being like Tyler Ellison's channel Rio, and a couple other people, and they all kept saying the same thing, but not as strong as Rio. But Rio finally said, I asked him, what's the most important thing right now for me? And he said, grounding. And I was really grounding, not diet. I'm on the ascension path. Isn't diet more important? They said, he said, what good is the diet? The diet is all about electronics. Digestion is all about electronics of the body. If you're not grounded and anchored, which is the basis of your electronics, how are you going to have good digestion? So he said the most important thing for all humans right now is grounding. So I took it to heart, and I started to go ground daily. Now, first let's talk about the way that you ground. You ground in different ways, and then I'm going to talk about how you become ungrounded. But you ground by walking 5 minutes barefoot on grass. That'll ground you, 5-10 minutes. Or being in nature with your shoes on for 45 minutes minimum. This will ground you. Now, the reason this grounds you, we have to first talk about how you become ungrounded. The body is an electronic system. And when you're talking electronics, you're talking polarity, positive and negative, and the flow of electrons. Electricity basically is the flow of electrons. You have two wires, and you hook them up, and the electrons flow from one to the other. That's electricity. Things measure the electricity and gets heated by the electrons, and we call it different stuff, but basically that's what electricity is. So the body, believe it or not, works on the same basis. It's electrons moving. That's how we communicate with cells and nerves and stuff like that. So you have positive and negative. And electricity starts with that. Even the earth that we're on has polarity, positive and negative. The positive is the upper stratosphere of the earth. The sky is the positive. And the negative comes from the core of the earth, the crystal core. That's the negative part. And that's why you have lightning. It's always striking from the stratosphere, and it goes down and it hits stuff to be grounded. And so they put grounding wires everywhere to just say, because all energy wants to do is complete itself. A whole soul wants to split into polarity, positive and negative, wants to be whole. And so that positive male will seek out the negative female to become whole. And that's why lightning strikes and tries to find ground. And so our body is the same thing. We have a positive and a negative in all our atoms. Atoms have positrons. That's what they used to call it back in the day, positron. We call it protons now. And you have electrons that spin around them. And so just like they say above and below, we're just like the earth. Our cells, our atoms are positive and negative. So what happens is that every now and then, the molecules in our body loses electrons because electrons are always moving and back and forth, going where it needs to go. And so you have a thing where a molecule or an atom structure is missing a matching electron to make it balance. This is what you call a free radical. You hear about this all the time, free radicals. Free radicals is what makes us sick. Free radicals weakens our immune system and give us diseases. If you want to not get a cold, strengthen, get rid of your free radicals. And they say stuff like high oxygen foods, like blueberries. I think they call it oxidants, what's what I'm looking for?
Oh, antioxidant.
Antioxidant, thank you. So they say eat foods high in antioxidants to lower and to take care of your free radicals. So that's how all that connects. So free radicals is something in your body that's missing an electron, matching electron. And so this is how we become ungrounded. That's what an ungrounded state is. An ungrounded state is when your body has a whole bunch of free radicals that is starting to affect your mood, it's starting to affect your digestion, it's starting to affect your sleep. And how did this start? I was having problems at night sleeping because I would get up every hour. And this is because of free radicals. The free radicals messed up my communication system with my bladder and the brain telling the bladder to hold the water, he's sleeping. Like the brain or the pituitary or the thyroid, one of them sends out something that says, hey, he's sleeping, shut down a little bit. But because of our electronics, the free radicals in our body being not so together, there's a miscommunication and the bladder doesn't receive that information that you're asleep. So it continues to tries to work on urine and process the body just like before. And believe it or not, that is the main cause of, and the pharmaceuticals are out there giving people medicine and pills. I forget what they call it, night urinations or whatever they do. Do you suffer from nightly urination? You take a pill. All you have to do is ground yourself and remain grounded. So that's what we need to be grounded. We become ungrounded. And so the way you ground, 5 minutes barefoot, 45 minutes in nature will ground you. And what is the process of grounding? Grounding is when you expose your body to these electrons that are being freely out there giving, and you start absorbing them into your body. Walking barefoot, because what is the negative electrons coming from? The core of the earth, the crystal core of the earth. It seeps up through the soil. When the soil is wet, it becomes very conducive electricity. This is why it's good to walk on the grass. The grass is wet, it's even better for you. You're going to get more electricity. But the moisture in the grass kind of holds those electrons, and so when you walk on them, you're getting them anyway, because you're cramping down on the grass, and the electrons come from the juice and all that stuff. And so walking barefoot will give you electrons, and also being in nature. Why? Because the trees come from the earth, and they're like little antennas with their branches out there. So yeah, trees and plants, as many people know, are here to heal humanity, are here, to help us. They provide a lot of medicine for most of our ailments. And mushrooms are great teachers and all that stuff. Plant mushroom, we all know about marijuana and all that stuff. But plants also, besides giving off oxygen, besides being medicine, they give off electrons. That's one of their jobs. They just keep releasing electrons into the air. So this is why when you go into nature around trees for 45 minutes, you will become grounded. It's a slower process because it's not directly being absorbed through the roots of your feet. And so, yeah. And then you'll just notice that once you're in nature for 45 minutes, you'll notice your anger will dissipate. Your little things, your little confusion, your cloudiness will just start to clear up because you're becoming more centered, because your electronics, what your body is based on, is now being balanced. All the free radicals that were here, let's say around your thyroid, and now that cut everything off from going to your brain. And this is why you start feeling uncomfortable, stuff like that. Because, the body is the nervous system, the endocrine system, it's all running on electrics. And so when you ground, so I found out that once I started to listen to Rio and I started to take my grounding seriously, I started to feel better, and that first night I grounded, I slept like a baby for a long time. I slept all the way through 8 hours. I hadn't done that in a long time. And that's when I started seeing the pattern. I was like, okay, days that I'm ungrounded, I would wake up every hour, and then I'd be tired. The days that I would fully, and I followed my grounding procedures, I'd be well rested and slept all the way through, and no problem. And my dreams were better. And but Rio gave me a, a let's call it a bedtime plan. I think I had a better word for it before, but let's just call it a ritual. Yeah, there you go. A bedtime sleep ritual. So the ritual that I use, and I recommend for anyone, but you just do it for yourself, what's better. Okay, before we go into the ritual, let's talk about how we become ungrounded. We talked about how we become ungrounded. What being ungrounded is, free radicals, the molecules missing an electron, but how does it happen? How does one go from being well grounded and then in the middle of the day, by the time you get ready to go to sleep again, you're ungrounded? We would remain grounded a lot more if we didn't have this modern society that we live in. And this is one of the gifts that I got from grounding. I was actually out grounding, and the reason I'm here on this show is I was out grounding and I had this intuitive knowing. It just came to me. I guess I was just grounded and connected or whatever. And this is what it said. It says, because I was like, man, I got to keep coming out here in nature, every day. And it just came to me how I was being ungrounded. And it was that the electronics that I'm around, and I'm around electronics a lot, and everyone is also, the cell phone, wireless, the router that most people have. Even if you have it wired, you have your wireless router just so you can run your phone on it also, in case anyone comes over. So most people keep their wireless running also on the router. And the epiphany that I had was that, and nobody's really releasing, the technology because of patents and everything, but this is what the knowing I got. And then I had a session with Stephanie Light with CC, and she verified it. CC is a fifth dimensional being. And they said, yes, you are correct. And the knowing that I had was that Wi-Fi works on the same technology as Nikola Tesla when he first invented electricity. When Nikola Tesla first invented electricity, he came up with it wirelessly. He was transmitting these electrons from point A to point B wirelessly. And then when he sold it, who knows the powers that be, they wanted to hook it up to a wire because they wanted people to be able to have to pay for it, to sell it, to come from one central point, and then they get to pay for it. And they stole his idea, blah, blah, blah. The rest is history. And so the wireless electricity got buried. But once they saw a need and a way to make some more money by using the same technology that they already had that they were keeping hidden, they started to use it on what we call today Wi-Fi, wireless cell phones came about. The way these transmitters work is from your phone to the cell tower, it uses the electrons. It transmits on the electrons in the air. This is how Nikola Tesla was able to do electricity wirelessly. It's the same stuff. So when your router is on, it's basically it's setting out a signal, and it's using the electrons available in the air, in the room, and yes, in your body, wherever it can, just transmit the signal, and it just moves it along from electron to electron. The electrons are everywhere. And so if you're in a room, it's naturally every now and then gonna use some of your electrons and grab them. And so you're gonna lose electrons that way. And this is how you become ungrounded. Now just imagine if you do this all day and you go into a building that has 1,000 people with cell phones, Wi-Fi routers from different companies all up in the building. We're being saturated with this technology that's literally just going out there like a vampire, grabbing up electrons and using them up. And human beings in the body just gets sucked also. And this is how you become ungrounded. And so this is why in this modern day society, you have to ground yourself. You literally have no choice. You're literally ungrounded right now. If you hadn't, been grounding consciously, in the last 24 hours, you are ungrounded. And so, yes, this is probably why you're having a medical issue. This is probably why you have to take that pill to start to feel better. This is probably why you're feeling depressed, because your brain, your nervous system is not operating optimally. It's operating at a very low level. You don't have the amount of electron support that you need. So the answer to that is to ground. 5 minutes a day on bare grass. Everyone has some grass out front. And what you want to do with the grass, right? And I'll walk you through a quick meditation thing to do with the grass. Is you just go on grass. It says 5 minutes, but try to do 10. The more the better. You go out on grass barefoot and you imagine, use your imagination. Imagination, we're a nation of magicians. Everything that we imagine is real, because this whole reality is illusionary anyway. It's just imagination. That's how powerful imagination is. So see yourself as a tree, and out of the bottom of your foot, roots start to come out and go into the ground. And see them going deep, 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 far, far, far. Just imagine, just set your intention. My roots are going for miles. They're going down to the center of the earth. And as you're going down, you see the roots, you'll feel them naturally, because imagination makes things real. And so you'll start to feel them, and then say, all right, now I'm a root, like a tree, and it's built to absorb electrons. I'm going to absorb up the electrons up my feet. Take a deep breath, feel them, and you'll literally start to feel them. And this is the magic of what we call alchemy. Alchemy is when you use your imagination to make something real, and you understand that there is no difference between imagining and real. It just starts to become a blurred concept thing. And you start to feel stuff. You say, I'm really feeling something coming up. That's alchemy, because that's just the way reality works, is that your imagination makes it real. Your body doesn't know the difference. And so it'll start to suck up electrons even faster from the earth and into your body. Seeing it come up to your root, bottom of base of your spine, and see that electricity just feeding up your spinal cord, feeding your nervous system up to your brain. And the more you can feel it and you practice this, it'll become stronger and more effective each time. And then before you set your alarm clock or whatever, and then the 5 minutes is up, the 10 minutes is up, you are now grounded. You're just gonna benefit bodily, mentally, spiritually from having those electrons now in you. And also, I like to go out to nature also, because that's just beautiful. Because nature is like, when you go out amongst trees, after a while, you might not be sensitive to it, but when you go every day for, 45 minutes, hour, I started going like 45 minutes. I used to be like, all right, this 45 minutes, time's up. Because, it was like, I was the person of the world, got to get back to work. And after a while, I noticed that I got so calm out there. Everything got so centered, mellow. My brain was like, all right, everything's cool. And so I started staying an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours out there in nature. And the longer you stay, the more you just become so grounded. It's like you just had a massage, and you feel after you just had a nice warm bath or something like that. You just feel great. And then that night you'll just sleep like a baby. So that is grounding. That is why you need to ground. That is why you get ungrounded. And the big cause of being ungrounded is the wireless systems that are around. And even if you don't have any personal one, the best places to live is someplace that's not getting a good signal, which I'm fortunate, because right here, my signal from my phone is terrible. That's why I have my wireless router running so I can use my phone here. But that's good, because part of my ritual, and I'll share my bedtime ritual here right now, that I came up with Leo. My ritual every day that works for me is 2 hours before I go to bed, I shut off all electronics, everything. My monitor, my computer, but that gives off EMF also, low frequency. And I shut off my router and I shut off my phone. If I'm expecting something, I'll text somebody, hey, I'm going to be down. I won't see this till tomorrow when I get up. Because right now, my sleep is very important to me, because I get a lot of messages and downloads during the night, and I wasn't getting them when I was ungrounded, which is why the universe kept trying to tell me to solve this problem, and I finally solved it. And now my dreams are amazing, and I get my information, I get music, I get downloads and all that stuff. So my ritual personally is 2 hours before bed, I shut off all my electronics. That's easy enough. I take a shower. Water is very grounding. Showering in water, your body loves it, because then all your cells get saturated, absorbs that water, and more electricity transmittably you become. So shut off electronics, shower. I take a tea. There's like a tea that has good herbs to help you sleep. I can't remember the name. It's like Camarillo or
Chamomile?
Chamomile, yes. And the other one is valerian. this is what the universe told me to friends I've had, they kept saying, oh yeah, because I had sleep issues and I thought it was different stuff, but it turned out to be, it was electronics. But I still take them because what that does, it gets you, and by teaching my body this ritual every night, my body knows, all right, we're going to get ready to sleep. We're going to have a good night's sleep. Electronics are off. Took a shower. We took our chamomile.
Chamomile, yeah. We take it too.
We take valerian. I love the taste of the chamomile. And valerian. Oh, and aromatherapy. I have my little diffuser. I put my aromatherapy. Mine is peppermint. I love peppermint.
Yeah, we have a diffuser running off screen right now also with peppermint in it.
Because what that does, right, because it grounds you into the body, because smell is very important scent that we don't really work as hard, no one's going around smelling stuff all day long. But so when you have aromatherapy, you're really working your olfactory senses. And so that really grounds you into the body. And so, aromatherapy also, and and then quiet the mind before going to bed, which means no books, no music, and the TV, the monitor, and the computer should be off. Now, and then you'll have, so your mind will be quiet, your body will be nice and wet, and you just showered, and your endocrine system, the internal, just got that, medicine and herbs from the valerian and the tea that you just took, and then you have your grounding in the body with the aromatherapy. That's my pre-bed grounding ritual, and it works. I sleep like a baby. And then when I get up, I do my morning stuff, yoga, whatever, and then I turn my stuff back on. I go into my day. And yes, I could get them grounded, because when I stop, but by the way, when I stop for my 2 hours, part of that 2 hours is 1 hour of it, I go out in the woods and I ground.
Mm-hmm.
So I go ground for an hour, then I come back, then I do the shower, then I do the tea, the aromatherapy, quiet the mind, and go to bed. Now, this is what I used to do before that. and this is what you don't want to do. You keep your cell phone and everything on. You stay on Facebook and watch what's going on out in the world on the internet. Remember, the internet is the collective consciousness of the earth. In a way, that's what it is. It's the neural network connecting you to every other being on the planet. And so when you're sitting there on social media 5-10 minutes before you go to bed, your field is going out and you are opening up to 8 billion people on the planet. Some of them are not very energetically what you want to be connecting to right before you go to bed. Because as you go into bed, you're going to connect frequently to different stuff. And so, let's say you start reading some negative stuff about, the Illuminati and blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know, you go to bed, your vibration is going to reflect all that. So, and then it's also, your body is taking into account all these people you just connected to on the internet. It's like a vast sharing of your energy. So that's a no-no. Before going to, you want to be off the social media or anything for at least 2 hours before you go to bed. And this will ground your energy. Then you go ground, and then you're into nature, quietness, earth. And one important thing that I neglected to recommend, another benefit that you're getting from being out in nature is that the earth is already ascended into the fifth dimension. It's already done. That's when you saw all those earthquakes we had years ago and all the volcanoes that were going off, the tornadoes. And then now it was doing the final stuff. You see all these fires that were going on. Because now it's really saying, I am done. It's time to get humanity, everything that's on me, done. So right now the job is about humanity, life on the earth, getting into the fifth dimension. And what's the best way to do that? Using the law of vibrational harmonics. You take one tuning fork that's ringing, ding, and put it next to another tuning fork that's not ringing. This one that's not ringing will automatically, through the law of vibration, so harmonic starts to ring also. And so the earth is giving off a higher fifth dimensional frequency. And so by being out in nature amongst the trees, which are like antennas of broadcasting that fifth dimensional frequency, your body, your cells, your electronics becomes more fifth dimensional. And when you're there for an hour, and that's one of the reasons it calms you also. You become higher in frequency. You're no longer down here where you're angry or worried and stuff like that. You're up here in the fifth dimension where everything is okay. Everything is cool. I'm centered. And so you want to be out in nature to absorb the fifth dimensional frequencies that are available to you. That's the best way to get it, to be out in nature. So that's why you want to go.
Yes, and I can attest to that as well. When studying vibrational frequency, one thing I learned that when you are in dense forests and deep foliage, when you're surrounded and immersed in plants and trees, okay, they actually put off their own vibrational frequency, similar to humans and all beings do. And they actually resonate, they oscillate at that fifth dimensional, fourth and fifth density frequency. And that's what helps supercharge human beings when we go into the forest and into the woods, because their frequency, we bask in it, we bathe in it. And it helps push out what I call dirty energy and that EMF through grounding, because their frequency is so high that you're literally in a lighter vibration. And also, if you think about specifically when the fires started, both in California, but more importantly in Australia and the Amazon, well, those fires they were burning down very dense forested areas, specifically like in the Amazon, where there were pockets, or what I call little pockets or domes of fifth dimensional frequency, you know? And so I genuinely resonate with the concept that when we go off into the woods, into the forest, and we connect to the earth, we are oscillating and harmonizing to that fourth, fifth density frequency. And I want to share a personal story, actually, that can attest to that as well. In 2017, I moved to Newark, New Jersey, which is right outside New York City, because I was pursuing a professional acting career in the city as well. And
Can someone get me a coffee?
That's Lauren's favorite part too. So I moved out there to pursue an acting career, and it was cheaper to live in New Jersey over the river and just commute in and out. But one thing I can say about Newark, New Jersey is it's like a concrete jungle in the sense that as far as the eye can see, everything is cement. Okay, now I lived in a small apartment that was 3 units tall, and we actually didn't have any grass whatsoever. There was no grass on our sidewalk or in our yard. We didn't have a yard. It was all cement. And I don't want to go too far into it, but I was having some very light medical issues, and a friend had recommended something that I could take to use as a detoxing treatment that would detox some of the things that I needed to sort of purge from my system. And one thing that she didn't realize, and that I didn't realize at the time either, was that certain substances, as no matter how medicinal as they are, everyone's physiological systems are different, and we react to chemicals and medicines differently. Our bodies are unique. And what could be totally safe for one person could be harmful or dangerous to another based on their body. And so I took this detoxing agent that she suggested, and I actually think it almost killed me. I was poisoned by it, and I ended up in the hospital several times. I became physically disabled for a time, and the main issues I was having was my nervous system and my pulmonary system were misfiring, and they weren't communicating. So I was having sort of physical dysfunction, and I was very, very ill. And then while I was going through these medical issues, I came across a documentary that was about grounding. And I asked my mother as well. She was familiar with the concept of grounding. And her and I sat down while I was still living in New Jersey, and we watched this documentary together. And it was very fascinating, very eye-opening when you look at it from a scientific perspective, the way you explained it, how grounding affects the body. Okay. And one of the main things that people notice when they start grounding is it improves your circulation. In the documentary, it showed people who had low circulation areas, as people with diabetes and things like that, who were grounding now for an hour a day, were having like upwards to like 65% improvement in their circulation from just standing in the grass. Okay.
And that's electronics. It's based on electronics. Yeah.
So here I am in New Jersey. And I'm surrounded with EMF and what I call dirty energy. So when I say dirty energy, that's any electromagnetic frequency that comes off of your electronics. Okay? Computers, phones, tablets, televisions, anything puts off a dirty energy frequency that is not in alignment to the body's vibrational hertz value. And so here I am having pulmonary issues and nervous system issues. And so I see this documentary, and there was a small dog park where you could walk and jog, about a 12, 13-minute walk from my apartment. So I decided to hobble myself down the road through the concrete jungle to where the train station picks people up and takes them to New York City. There was a small park, and I would walk to the park, and I would take my shoes and socks off, and I would walk around in the grass for 15, 20 minutes, and I would sit underneath a tree. I put my back against a tree trunk and sit there, just deep breathing, deep breathing. Yes, sitting with my back to a tree trunk and walking around in the grass. Now, I want to circle back real quick to what you said about having sleep disturbance. Well, one of the symptoms to my pulmonary issues and my circulation issues is my vascular system was misfiring, okay? That's bad. That's really bad. So when I would go to sleep at night, I would have total limbs falling asleep, and whole sides of my body would completely go numb. And as a result, I'd wake up sort of like panicked, and I couldn't sleep. And this went on for weeks. So once I started grounding and walking around in the grass, I would spend an hour in the grass and sitting next to those tree trunks, which I could do a whole episode about trees. They're like conductors, they're antennas. They are the antennas of the earth. Funny thing about trees is Norman and I like to say, okay, well, we have 5G towers, right? We got the 5G. Well, the trees are the OG towers, right? Those are the OG towers. That's
oh
what
my
Norman
God,
and I
I
call
totally
them.
forgot. You remember that?
Yeah, we call trees OG towers. And I would sit out there, and then I would put my shoes and socks back on after a good hour of being out in nature, or as much nature as Newark has to offer. I would walk back home, and then I could take a nap right away. I could lay down and sleep for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, unlike when I tried to sleep at night before I started grounding. So in combination with some energy healings and changing my diet and grounding, I think it was a total game changer in the medical challenges that I was experiencing at the time. And ever since, I've always made it a point to get that time barefoot in the grass and walk around. For as new as this concept might be to you, or as silly as it might sound, I can say the science is there. The science is there. I mean, the frequency and the energy of the earth and the trees will literally push out EMF, free radicals, and dirty energy from your physical vessel that will ultimately improve the way your body functions, improve your sleep, help with your mental clarity. And if anybody is sort of exercising their abilities in what I call spirit technology, anything that is psychic in nature, that can also amplify and improve as well, because you're not being blocked by the lower vibrational frequency of technology.
Yep. And it's so appropriate that on a metaphysical show that you speak about grounding, because our body, our organic, beautiful body is an amazing design that's built on electronics. So you have to talk about electronics, you got to talk about grounding. And the people who sell you the medicine are not going to talk about it. So if there's anything wrong with you out there that's not working right, grounding, believe it or not, is just that simple. Will solve 90% of the issues. It's all electronics. And you cannot be, if you're upset, you cannot be upset, cannot be foggy when you're out there in nature. It will just get it off. There's a couple of things that I made notes of that I just remembered.
Sure.
Also, you get ungrounded, the electronics is microwave. A microwavable stuff will unground you, because how does a microwave works? It goes in and it reverses the polarity of the food. It bombards it with electricity, with technology that's like hitting the molecules and reversing the polarity randomly real fast. Like,
Right.
so as the molecules change, it creates the heat and the friction. The problem is when it stops, it doesn't like reset everything back to the way the molecules were. No. So whatever you were eating now is like in the most ungrounded state you could possibly imagine. And then because the electrons are like all over the place, it's like a big free radical meal you just created. That's the way
Right.
to look at it. And then as you put it into your body, everything it touches becomes now free radicals. It hits your esophagus, it starts pulling electrons from it needs it. So now the electrons are suffering, goes into your heart, your stomach, and it starts pulling everything in there. It starts pulling the electron, and everything is trying to balance itself. And yeah, one of the things I did was I stopped eating with a microwave a long time ago. And I
So do
usually
we.
don't have, yeah. Okay. Another thing you could do is, and I didn't mention this, is that people are going to say, how do we go and ground, man, when it's cold? It's cold outside. I live in Alaska. I live in Wisconsin in the winter because I had this issue and I had to solve this problem too. It's 20 below zero in Columbus, Ohio, and I had to ground because grounding is part of my life. And this is what I found out. Yes, the grounding stuff is still the ground, even though it's frozen, and it still gives off electrons, and you can still go out there. It will not kill you to be on ice, even if it's on ice, but you can clear off, or find a spot that's not ice. But even if it's on the snow, electrons are coming off of that. You can walk on it barefoot for 5 minutes and you'll be grounded. And it's not going to kill you. I used to do it every day. And also, I would just bundle up and go out into the woods with my hat, ski mask if you got to, a big parka, gloves, 3 socks, get warm, go into nature, and you can, with all those coats, you can still go out there for 45 minutes to an hour, and hands in your pockets, and you will get grounded. You just have to do the stuff. The electrons will go right through that stuff.
Yeah, the ice in the water is still conductive.
Yeah. So I wanted to add that hugging a tree is like
Yep.
a super powered way to get grounded. If you don't have 45 minutes, go to a tree, put your heart to it, and hug it, and breathe in the electrons from the tree into your heart. You're going to experience something that only someone who's hugged a tree to the heart has experienced. It feels great.
Yes, it
You're talking
does. I'm a
about
tree hugger.
you talk about endorphins to the brain and feeling high. Go breathe the train. And the thing is, right, we live in a wonderful reality where it has to be good when people are making fun of tree huggers. Someone is trying to tell you they don't want people hugging trees. Why else would you take the time? Why would you care? But so it's there to make you feel guilty and stuff like that. But I used to do it. I'm out in the woods. I hug a tree. I don't care what anyone says to me. My sleep is about me and my health is about me. It's not my fault. I live in a reality where a lot of people are veiled to a lot of stuff. And so, yeah, hug a tree will get you some super electrons into the heart, and your heart will love it. Another thing you could do finally is, and Cece told me this, Stephanie Light channels Cece from SSI, and she said you could intend, another way to keep your electrons when you're in a polluted, dirty environment is just be mindful and have the intention that you're going to retain your electrons. You just, because before right now we don't even know, we just like, so we're really just saying take my electrons because we're not giving up any any thought to it or anything like that. But when you sit there and in front of my computer and I go, I'm going to maintain, I'm holding on to my electrons. When you just do that intention and you're mindful of it, it'll go around you. The Wi-Fi will take from everything because we live in a free will world, reality.
Right.
And when you make known that I want to keep my electrons, the technology goes around you and grabs some of the air and everything else and kind of leaves you alone. So that's another thing. But how much, you have to be mindful of it. Maybe you put up a little poster saying, I'm keeping my electrons to remind you to keep saying it during the day and have that intention. But yeah, she says that helps. So I've been doing that also. She said that really slows down the process of losing electrons and it'll help you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's as simple as affirmations, visualizations, power of belief. This is our reality, and we are free will beings. So we can actually start nullifying the effects of some of this EMF and dirty energy also just by our intention alone.
Yes. And remember, I'll never forget on Stories of Orion, remember when Hermes used to come in when you're in the woods? He would be like, I just want to take it in. Your world is so beautiful. He loves being out there because he could really feel that fifth dimensional energy that's coming in. And that's really the best part of our planet energetically. Because, in the higher dimensions, it's all about energy for them. And, and that's the one thing that we avoid. We put everyone from the city, take them outside of the nature and build concrete. Believe it or not, it's actually designed to get you away from the electricity.
Yes, it is.
Shoes, I did wearing shoes, and the city's concrete, everything paved is not an accident, because ungrounding people more easier to control mentally,
Yep.
stuff like that.
100%.
And
100%.
you could sell them a lot of medicine.
Yes. And just that concept alone, like if you stop to look outside and think about maybe the town or the city you live in, how much unnecessary cement there is everywhere. It's meant to separate us from the earth. It's all right there, and like I said, I could do a whole episode about trees, but I've connected with trees, specifically the tree consciousness as a channeler. I can sit down with a tree and tap into its energy, and then you find out that every tree has a personality and an identity. They're actually conscious like we are. So when I
They're
see
very wise
wise, old wisdom, and they share information to each other through the air and through the mitochondrial networks underground, sending and receiving water, mineral, and fungus, and everything that they need to cultivate each other's health. They're very smart and very intuitive, and I can sit down with a tree for a little while and get to know it, and then just sit there and meditate with a tree, and I can start crying, and I can start having visualizations, and the trees will just pull your trauma out. They will just pull the density out of your body when you acknowledge them as sentient, conscious beings, just like you are. They're just in a different physical vessel form. They have a different language,
Life is ubiquitous. Life is in so much different forms. We think it's just human form, but life is a lot of stuff, man. And it's just different. But trees are wise. They retain information. That tree that's been around for 300 years remembers everything that happened around it for 300 years.
Yes, it does.
And it will share it with you if you know how to talk to it. I'm still trying to learn. I'm still working on that stuff. How to get, but you say you have to listen. And if you listen to a tree long enough, you'll start to hear it.
Yeah, and they'll tell you names, and they'll tell you history, and they'll tell you what they've observed. They're very powerful, wise, sentient beings, and that's one message that I wish I could really scream from the mountaintops, is that trees are your friends.
Did you read Daryl Anka's book, Shards of a Shattered Glass?
Shards of a Shattered Mirror, and no, I haven't. I know of it, and I think he just put on Facebook that the second one's done, and he's going to release it soon. But I'm interested.
Amazing book. You have
You've
to
read
read it. It's amazing. And he talks about this stuff because one of the things is she has to learn how to talk to trees. So her teacher is teaching her this stuff, and they're literally teaching us how to talk to trees. I think the first one's called cryptic. There's like different levels of mastery, alchemy, whatever. And a cryptic, you have to learn how to talk to trees. So that's why I bring it up. That book will teach you how to talk to trees.
Awesome.
As you practice the information in it.
Yeah, I definitely plan on reading it, and I honestly wanted to wait till the second one came out so I can just binge both of them.
Yeah, I'm going to reread the other one now before I get into it. I love that book. The book's amazing.
Awesome.
Bashar did a great job. Go Esasani, right? Esasani.
We love Bashar. This is a Bashar-friendly community here. Like a lot of my teachings are based on his core fundamentals.
Yes, it's humanity's fundamentals that they're reminding us of. And we all, you two also have lives in Esasani.
Yeah. I haven't tapped into him yet, but it has to be that way because I've been connecting to the, Bashar material. I've seen every Bashar transmission for the last 7 years. There's got to be something to it.
Yeah, I was very excited about that stuff too. Yeah, still good.
So listen, that is today's episode, guys. That is grounding, and I'm going to close it off with one more little thing here. Just came to mind. I will say, if you don't feel like you can get to the grass or the forest or the woods on a regular basis, say, for example, you live a fast life, you work, in buildings and things like that. One thing that Norman and I can also attest to is that in a pinch, there are alternatives to grounding sources. So I know that Norman uses a grounding mat, which you can put at your computer under your desk, and it has the same properties, okay? That's a grounding mat, and it usually plugs into the wall or it plugs into your circuit, and it will balance the energy for you and then give you the same grounding properties that come up from the, through the mat itself. And then as an alternative, I actually have these negative ion bracelets that Lauren and I bought, and there are properties inside these little stones on both sides of it that work the same as a grounding mat would. It's just a type of grounding tool that you can wear on your body that will help anchor you a little bit better to that frequency when you can't get out into the woods. And so that's an alternative for everybody as we close out here. I can attest to the scientific medicinal effects to grounding. Norman, I want to thank you very much for teaching us on this concept. And I encourage everybody to give it a try if you're new to it, and let us know if you have any experiences. If you're a first timer at it, it will have physiological, mental, and spiritual effects on you, because when it starts pushing and purging your body from all that energy, all that dense vibrational, dirty energy out, you'll notice, you feel it, right?
Yes.
And that's it. So, anything else, Lauren? The quiet one of the episode?
I'm just listening. I'm enjoying the whole thing. It's very interesting. Is there anything you wanted to shout out? Anything you want?
Or how can people reach you if they want to reach you?
Well, right now I'm a Gemini, so I'm always changing, blah, blah, blah. One of the things of a Gemini, the high qualities of one, divine qualities of a messenger. So I like to help people, and I get a lot of information. I have a lot of wisdom, and I like to share it with people. So I do what I just like to do wisdom sharing. I have a lot of wisdom, and where through my years I've acquired wisdom. If I could, like in a session, help someone with something that I've probably experienced already. So I have a website up now called lifecoach.love, Love, lifecoach.love. I'm not crazy about the life coach part. I might change that, but it's what I got now. But it's where people can go and get a session, and they could ask me stuff about issues they might have, and I share my wisdom with them.
Very good. Well, thank you very much, brother. Like I said, I feel you are soul family, and I look forward to collaborating with you again, because this is the second time. Third time's a charm. So let's see what
things happen in threes, so they will be a third.
We'll do something again.
There's an old saying from the book The Alchemist: if something happened once, it'll never happen again. But if it happened twice, it'll certainly happen a third time. Very
good. Well, thank you for being here with us, my friend, until we meet again. And then, Lauren, we will send off with our Steel Town cups. That's so meta.
Cheers.